have a dumb little preamble, and then we'll dive in. Because, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lorne Riseley. How are you doing today? I want to start by asking, who among us would dare to do something all of us wish we could do? Follow our dreams and make them a reality. Well, our guest today has done just that. He is a professional wrestler who is featured for some of the world's biggest promotions. He is a mainstay of the thriving UK wrestling scene and Ibiza's favourite wrestler, a gifted bodybuilder with the kind of physique that you tell yourself is AI generated to give you a chance to sleep at night out of pure inadequacy. And of course, he is a decorated champion, having held numerous titles across multiple promotions. I can think of probably 87 more things to hype him up about, but for now, let's ride this wave, shall we? Please welcome the man they call Big Wavy. Mr. Roy Johnson is here, sir.
That's some introduction you give me there. I can tell you've thought about this, and I'm impressed. So that's a good start. We're off to a good start. That's probably the best intro someone's ever given me. I say that knowing that my wife has ring-announced me, so I should probably say the second best introduction someone's ever given me. But
if you can hear me still over the sound of that vigorous backpedaling there, it's okay. We've all listen, I strive, because here's the thing. I love delving into guests when I find a hook. And the hook with you was, I was watching some of your matches and then I saw an interview with you where you talked about the rigors of actually doing the thing you dreamed about. You talked about being in a job. You talked about having worked pretty hard to get into a position in your job where you felt successful. But then you had this itch. You had this need, this want to actually, right, can I actually do this? The first thing I wanted to ask is, man, like, there's not a kid who's my age who didn't dream of one day lacing up a pair of boots, going to the ring with their music blaring, a crowd roaring, and dropping an elbow or something on someone. But all of us, sooner or later, went, nah, not for me. You got there. You made that happen. I want to know what goes through a person's mind. What went through your mind, wrestling with that decision, executing that decision, and then delivering on it and actually living that dream? Talk me through that.
Well, I want to be in a position to say that, like, wrestling has always been something I've wanted to do and has been a dream for me anyway. But I wish I could be in a position to say it was my dream and the next day I did it. But it's not how things worked out for me. I didn't start wrestling training until I was 29 years old. I've been a wrestling fan since I was 5. So there's been a good gap in between where I've always held wrestling in such high esteem, and it's been something that I've always been passionate about, dreamed of doing, wanted to do, but haven't ever done it. And it got to a point where I was like, right, you're turning 30 soon. 30 before 30, things you want to do before 30, that kind of stuff. I thought to myself, right, I'm going to go to do wrestling training. And then one day I just got up and went training. Literally, didn't have any, I had nothing going on that Saturday morning and just thought, I'm going to go wrestling training. And then I just stuck with it ever since. And that's literally, I can't say anything influenced me majorly or propelled me towards that, but I literally just got up one morning and went and tried it out, only with the aim of just stepping in a ring and seeing what it felt like. And then we got put through it, so to speak, in training. The training was really tough. I was in a lot of pain. And this is coming from someone who, at the time, was a powerlifter. So I'm used to physical exertion, used to being in pain and having like sore muscles and that sort of stuff on a quite regular basis, sore joints as well on a quite regular basis. Someone who played American football, so I was used to being hit really hard and not being able to get out of bed the next day and that sort of thing. But then wrestling was just a complete different kind of pain and I guess fatigue on your body, and I just kept coming back for more. But you mentioned about you've seen me do other podcasts and stuff, and how I talked about just having this itch that wouldn't go away for wrestling. And when I started wrestling, I was very much happy with just being weekend warrior, wrestling on independence, just having fun, until it became increasingly possible to be able to do it on the bigger stage. And I say that, I kind of say that now, you know, not saying I've wrestled main event and WrestleMania, all that sort of stuff, but to be able to wrestle for the WWE on numerous occasions, live on WWE Network, do TV tapings, do house shows, then do things like extra work and all that sort of stuff for the WWE. Yeah, that's pretty big, and not a lot of people have been in a position where they've been able to do that, and especially not be able to do that so soon into their journey. Sorry, I waffle, but
no, because it makes sense. Because here's the thing: I'm gonna cut him off here, ladies and gentlemen. Physically, never a chance, but in this interview, because I get it's a quirk of happenstance. You mentioned there, like I just decided to try it one day, and then it kind of became a thing, but. You have to attribute it to something, because you've alluded to it there. You're talking about professions that demand so much out of you, from physical pain to this idea of, no, I'm just going to rest today, to, no, actually, I can't really afford to, I've got to stay sharp, I've got to stay on my game, I've got to get better. Bodybuilding is no different in that sense, because, of course, it is a relentlessly competitive industry to be in. This idea of, there must be something deeper, and I know there's something deeper. Maybe it's not a cognizant thing, but you talked about being spiritual in other interviews. There's an element of a sense of destiny with you. There's a sense of it. There's a flow. There's a reason. There's things that happen at moments in your career. What do you attribute your perseverance then? Because we're talking the better part, as near as makes no difference, a decade at this point. That's a long time to endure relentless physical, mental, financial, I'm sure, setbacks and hurdles. What do you attribute your perseverance to then, if not a deep-seated obsession and passion? Like, how do you maintain success?
I think, and this actually stretches. I was talking to someone that I work with about this in relation to going to the gym, and for me anyway, personally, the drive to kind of try things, work hard, train, all that sort of stuff isn't driven by the fact that I actually like doing it. I despise it. I hate it. The gym, for example, I hate going to the gym. It's honestly the best time for me in going to the gym is when I leave. So I hate going to the gym. I hate exercise. Whilst I enjoyed wrestling training because of what it is, insight into a form of entertainment that I've always loved. It hurt. I didn't enjoy the pain side of it. I got anxious going to wrestling training every time. I still do. But what I hate most or more is the alternative. So, we talk about me going to the gym. The alternative to me not going to the gym, going to the gym, is not going to the gym, and I hate that more than going to the gym. So I go. The alternative for me not pursuing wrestling, despite the fact that it hurts, it has a physical and mental toll on you, and it consumes a lot of your spare time in your life, is the thought of failing and not being able to do it. So, and that's one of the things that kept me away actually from doing wrestling and going into and training and stuff, is the fact that I love this sport, form of entertainment so much that if I try it and I fail, that will ruin my love for it. So that's actually what kept me away from doing it, from why I started so late. Because there's been times in my life where I've thought about doing it, like when I went to university, I made the decision I was either going to play American football or go wrestling training. And I picked American football purely because of the social aspect, wanting to meet new people, wanted to be a jock essentially. But I chose that over wrestling. Then when I finished university, I decided, right, do I want to try wrestling training? Because there was like I went to university in Nottingham, so there was a school in Nottingham that I knew of at the time when I was at uni. Don't know who runs it now, or if it exists or whatever, because this is quite a while ago. And when I moved back home, I was aware there was wrestling school in Kent. so not too far from me. But again, I chose to stick with American football. I then went into powerlifting, and then once I went into powerlifting, I was like, yeah, wrestling's not going to work concurrently because they're both hurt. And then, like I say again, I went into and tried wrestling training, but like my passion for wrestling and not wanting to lose that passion is what kept me from trying it. If that makes sense. So I didn't want to take how I felt about the whole wrestling and the wrestling sport or wrestling form entertainment, or however you want to call it. So yeah.
Yeah, the classic sausage principle. The second you actually see how something goes in, it can take a little bit of the passion and the magic away. But I want to dive into that. I have to. Normally, I save the silly questions for last, but there's something in there that you just said about, you don't, because he's right. Chip, you lunatics that say that, oh, I love the pump, you're fucking out of your minds. It's like people that say, oh, I love getting tattoos. It's the best. No, you're lying. You're lying, yeah. and we know you're lying. But my question is, gym pet peeves. You're in the gym a lot. What things are like, maybe don't let you flip out, but like you just go,
just a slightly
I don't know. The what, sorry?
The tut is the same. The tutting is for an English person, same as flipping out, really. So things that make me tut in the gym. Tripods. And I get it. I do it every so often if my coach wants to see what my form's looking like on certain exercises or whatever, or if I feel like I'm going for a big lift and I want to document it, fine. It's the people who film everything and then they post things on their social media of like really fancy edited stuff, and it's like it's just a gym session, and their tripod will be in the way of someone else, or worse, somewhere where people walk past them through. So yeah, when that happens, it just annoys me. And then things like people, this is one that annoys me the most, more than anything actually. It's when people rest on equipment in the gym. So I don't know, say I'm on
the rows are the ones that get me because they sit in a comfortable position on the phone.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So, and it's not even, if you're using that bit of equipment, fine. You rest as long as you feel like you need to rest. Like, it's annoying if you rest and you're on your phone. That's annoying. But I understand that for some people, that bit of time in the gym is the only time they get to potentially use their phone. They might have a busy job or whatever, busy home life. That might be the only time of the day they can like reply to emails and that sort of thing. Fine. It is what it is. It's the people who say are using that rowing machine, but then they'll sit on the rowing machine next to it while they're resting, and that just takes out the equipment for someone else. That does my head in. Really, really, really annoys me. Can I swear here?
You can fucking swear as much as you motherfucking like, sir.
Really, really fucking pisses me off. So yeah, but more than anything. I don't like to be disturbed in the gym. It's quite fun. I've been training in my gym for 7 years, and I have not that many friends at my gym, purely because I'm not sociable in the gym. People who go to the gym, and again, if this is what people want to do, fine. If it's their big social outing, but because I don't like being in the gym, I'm in and out. I do my workout and I leave, and I don't like hang about for conversations. And when I got my headphones in, and then people come up to me and they'll start talking to me like they don't realize I've got headphones in. I'm like, well, now I have to stop what I'm doing, take myself out of the zone that I'm in, pause my music, talk to you, and then something's menial, like, I don't know, am I using this bit of equipment that I'm clearly not using? Right.
Bro, how many sets you got left, bro? Like, you saw me come to the fucking machine. How many sets do you think I've got left? Go away.
Well, did you see that one that I tweeted recently?
So I've seen a few. I've seen where someone walked in your shot and you went, happens. But was it you were on the tricep press, weren't you? That one, I did see that one. Yeah.
I just started, and the guy tapped me on the shoulder while I was mid lift to ask me how many sets I got left. Yeah. So there's quite a few.
I like that because here's the thing. This is look, and I think the fact that you've been in situations where your body is your tool. It's how you make your money. You spend a lot of time honing it, crafting it. like you said, the gym has become a social thing. And while that's not necessarily the worst thing, it means that you get, he's being nice, I'm not going to be. You get some proper toolboxes in gyms these days. And the one that gets me is when people are on the deadlift racks, which I'm never near because I'm a filthy casual, and you see it in real time. You go, they're only doing one side. Okay, this is going to be fun. And then sure enough, they take the weights on one side and it goes, and it flies across the way and nearly decapitates someone from across the way. And it never occurs to them that there's a thing called gravity. It never even enters their minds that, oh, it's 50 kilograms, 60 kilograms on one side. Maybe taking it off the opposite side is going to have an adverse effect. But fuck it, let's take it off. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen it happen once live in the gym. I was in the gym, training in the gym in America. Someone was attempting to squat 4 plates aside and wasn't really happening. So he took one plate off one side, and I was in the rack next to him, and I was thinking, okay. And he took 2 off one side. I'm thinking, mate, are you gonna like? And then he took 3 off of one side. I'm like, oh no, he's new to this. He's not realised what's about to happen. And then took the 4th one off, and then the bar just fell off, cracked a mirror, and landed very close to the head of someone who was lifting nearby. And the person who was lifting nearby lost his shit. Just completely lost his shit, as you would do, as I would do. But it is, yeah. So I've only seen that happen live once. I've seen it on Instagram and whatever every so often, but to see it live in the flesh, it's scary because no one's stopping that bar from going wherever it's going to, and you don't know where it's going to, essentially. So, yeah, and a bar traveling at such velocity that hits someone, it's not going to be pretty. So, yeah, I've only seen that once, and hope I never see that happen ever again. So.
I have an ulterior. This isn't just an old man yelling at cloud moment, ladies and gentlemen. The point I wanted to make is that I see parallels with gym culture in wrestling, in the sense that the thing that stands out to me is that, yes, it's supposed to be fun, but there's a discipline and there's a passion that has to be put in if you're going to persevere with it. Because like you say, the name of the game is kind of pain in the gym. Like, the idea is you're going to put your body through something it's got to recover from to get stronger, to then come back to do the same thing again. That demands a certain discipline and respect of what you're doing. One of the things that troubles me, though, in modern times with the gym culture, and I don't know if it's the same in wrestling, is this idea of the fun trumping what you're there to do. And that's never come across in any of your work. You've always seemed like a consummate professional. But my question is, how have you adapted over 10 years? Because I imagine the scene and the cultures of both gym work and the professional wrestling have changed. And you'd be remiss if you don't try to adapt with them and change with them. But of course, you've got to stay true to yourself. How have you contended with the changes over 10 years? How have you managed that?
I guess if I probably start with wrestling, because the like wrestling culture, gym culture has changed a lot. I guess in the last 10 years. When I started wrestling training, it was very much, you don't know anything, so be quiet. Mouth shut, ears open, all that sort of stuff. Which you get in, if you've ever done any sort of sport, that's how people will ask you to conduct yourself or expect you to conduct yourself anyway. Feedback was often brutal. You very rarely ever got told something nice. It's all like etiquette, handshakes. So you're saying hello to everyone, showing all that sort of stuff, and that kind of just got done away with recently. Obviously, people still do the handshakes and stuff, but it's not like if I go to a show and I forget to shake someone's hands or someone's not in the vicinity of me to be able to do so, I won't get heat for it. No one will pull me up on it. But it's back in when I started, it was a real important thing. So that's one thing. People generally are much nicer now than they were in the past, which is great. It's good and bad, actually. It's great that everyone's really nice to each other and there's more welcoming and accepting of things. But then bad in that people don't get honest feedback for things anymore like they used to. Again, well, like you said, I'm not going to be like old man yelling at cloud type of thing. But I see like wrestlers these days, especially new wrestlers coming up, they don't seem to want feedback for anything they do either. So wrestlers don't typically ask people who are more experienced, been on the scene longer, on shows longer, to say, oh, do you mind watching my match? Or if you watch my match, did you catch my match? Do you have any feedback from me? That I never ever hear that anymore. Like, whereas when I started, that was a very much a common thing, very, very common thing. But obviously, again, wrestling's changed a lot for the better as well.
Do you feel like you want to give that though? Like, I mean, because again, you've had 10 years doing your thing now, and I presume like me, because I'm the old guy whenever I walk into a room these days. I used to be the 16-year-old pup and full of vigor and promise. Now I'm the mid-30s dude who's seen it all, done it all, and wants to just go, hey, listen, I know you think this will work, but trust me, just do this and it'll work. And like you say, sometimes you get resistance, and you go, dude, this isn't for me. This is for you.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would like to do more? Or do you
of course.
maybe think about it through the prism of, well, I'm here if they want it, but I've got to look out for me. You only have so long in the business. You only have so much time to build a legacy.
Yeah, and no one ever, like I mentioned, no one ever asked, but I always want to do it. So, but I'm not going to force it on someone if they don't want me to. So that's the whole, like, if someone says to me, can you watch my match? I'll always say yeah. The only time I might say no is if I'm on straight after them and I've got my own pre-match ritual that I need to get my head in the game and all that sort of stuff before I do it. But I'll always do it on it, or if in that instance, I'll ask them to send it to me afterwards, and I'll do that. And I'm always willing to do that. Like, I'm not saying I know everything about whatever, but I've been around long enough, and I have an opinion, and not an important opinion, but I think you should always take as many opinions as you can with these sort of things. But no one ever asks. And then I was on a show recently, and I just decided to I'll just watch a few matches and stuff. And things I saw that didn't really work and didn't make sense, and I wanted to be able to then feed back to the people at that time. Think of this when you next wrestle, and things that just makes sense psychology wise and that sort of thing. But then I just think they didn't ask, so they don't want to know. So I'm not gonna force myself. Maybe they're happy with not knowing. Maybe people don't want to know these things, so I won't do it. But if anyone who's a young wrestler who's watching this or listening to this, if I'm on a show with you and you want my feedback, just ask. I'll do it. It's not a problem to me. I used to, not so much anymore, but used to regularly get and ask for wrestlers to send me match footage if they wanted feedback on stuff, because it gives me something to do when I'm on the treadmill. So, if someone sends me, a 15-minute match or whatever, I'll happily watch it on the treadmill, because the treadmill is
the one place on earth, except for maybe in a plank position, where time stops.
Yep.
It stops and it just won't move. Yes, you're right. Yep.
And I had one wrestler who I'm like close friends with. I'll shout him out, Levi Muir. He still to this day will say, "Oh, I had this match. You got time to check it out?" And I'm like, "Yep, send it to me. I'll watch it on the treadmill." And I'll do that, and as I'm watching it, I'll pause, give him some like feedback I have or whatever. Even if everything's spot on, I just tell him, "Oh, this is all really good," and then send it back to him. Then I get off the treadmill, and I've killed two birds with one stone, because I've made my treadmill time go faster, and I've helped someone out in some way. So, anyone who's watching or listening to this, please send me match footage if you want me to watch it. If my thoughts on it of any importance to you, they may be, they might not, but it kills my time on the treadmill. So, yeah.
We're going to come back to that, because there's a tweet you sent recently, and I want to dive into that. But first, I want to come to something you talked about again on a previous interview, and I want to extend the thought from it, because you were talking about having, I think it was a conversation with Michael Cole, and he was asking you questions about your character and some aspects of yourself. I can't imagine what that must be like, but I imagine that's one of those, you're Michael Cole and you're talking at me. This is interesting. I want to ask about the, not imposter syndrome that you might have felt during that moment, but certainly the moments leading up to that and around that time where you were like, this ain't real life. This is some other life that someone else is taking over. But how do you go from that, which is, look, you earned it, you were there, you weren't there on, you were there on merit, you were there because you deserved to be there, but actually feeling like you'd been established, like you'd gone from imposter to I am now him. Talk to me about either the mindset of it or when it happened, like the moment where you maybe went into the ring or you were backstage or you were in a moment you went, do you know what? I'm fucking here. I'm not aspiring anymore. I'm fucking here, man.
To be honest, it comes in and goes in waves, because I can talk about having imposter syndrome back in 2000 end of 2016 when I was signed for WWE, and then 2017 when I did the UK tournament. But I still get it. I still get imposter syndrome. And on various different levels, various different things within wrestling. It's a thing that I don't think many wrestlers can shake off, ever.
You've seen you, right? You can hammer most humans into the ground like a tent peg. Like you're...
I'll give an example, a recent example, or two recent examples. One, Roth and I, 87, we wrestled in Poland 2 weeks ago. And we were in Poland, just, milling about, checking out what Poland is like and what it's about. And I was like, just talking to myself, I've never been to Poland. I'm only here because someone thought I was good enough at wrestling to pay for me to fly over and to pay for me to wrestle. Out of everyone available to him in Poland, everyone available to him in, the closer vicinity of Europe, and then everyone available to him, the UK and further beyond Europe. This promoter flew myself and Roth over because he believed that I'm good at this wrestling thing, or good enough in this wrestling to do that for. And just things like that, I just think to myself, I don't get it. I'm very blessed to be in this position and to be able to do that. I don't get big-headed or arrogant about it, so I don't feel that I should be there. The whole weekend, everything that we did within the match and everything like that was just like, the match was really good. I was really happy with the match and whatever, but I sort of just thought to myself, you could have got anyone from Poland, but you picked us, and why did you pick us, kind of thing. So you get imposter syndrome still for things like that. Literally the other day I was having a conversation, but brought it back and forth with someone on Facebook about just general wrestling stuff, and they said to me, this person who I was arguing with, I'm arguing with them, and they're like, I regard you as one of the top heavyweights in the country. And I'm like, what? And they were comparing me to like people who from the UK who have gone on to be like signed or on doing huge things at the moment. I thought to myself, what? Like, you think I should be at that person's level, and you're baffled that I'm not where I was. I don't think of myself that highly. It's a weird thing. I think athletes get all sorts of imposter syndrome in all sorts of sports. Wrestling, it's worse because wrestling is not a real sport. So whatever you get in wrestling can be taken away very quickly because it's not real. Erling Haaland, for example, he's probably the best. Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe, best striker in the world at the moment. You can't take them out of the Premier League or La Liga or whatever and put them in the conference and they're going to perform, to the same level or worse than they were before. They'll just completely make a complete joke and mockery of those respective leagues because they are the top of their game. If you take a wrestler who, I don't know, say a wrestler is working in WWE, AEW, whatever, and they get released, and if no other big company picks them up, they're and this is no disrespect to the independents, but they then have to apply their trade over the indies, which is a step, maybe a considerable step lower than where they're currently working. For them to then be back to the level where they are, they have to either do something different, claw their way back up. But they're no less talented than they were a month or two ago. But that's been taken away from them, and there's no real like tangible, real attributes that just make them. Well, no, actually, they are the best at what they do, because wrestling's not real. In the same way, you can take someone off the street, put them in performance center, and have them study a wrestling match that they're going to perform in 3 months down the line repetitively, and until it's ingrained and patterned into the head, and they can go out and wrestle a great match, but might not be able to do much after that. But they can still, you can still smoke and mirrors them into being a world-class performer. And then that person's at the very top of the game. So it's all very weird. Like, and all it takes is for someone to decide, you know what, I'm not going to book this person on this show, or you know what, this person maybe I can get someone cheaper in for this show, and that's it. So you can't like ever stop and think, yeah, I'm here, I've arrived now, I'm here for the foreseeable, whatever. Okay, you can at some levels, but you can't ever stop and do that, because it can get taken away from you so quickly. So
the question becomes then, because I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting that you put it that in that context, because I think you're right. Most people think, I've put in my time, I've built a body of work, I've sacrificed, I've shown all these things, and yet semantics come in, politics come in, things like that, and it can move you into a position you don't deserve to be in, at least in your own mind. And you can retain a humility in that, but you're in an industry, even in body, where ego is a massive part of the presentation. It's I have the most enormous penis, ladies and gentlemen, the most enormous. Obviously can't show you it, but you'll book me because, right? Okay, it's belief, right? And it's projection of that confidence. It's perception is reality to a certain degree. So the question becomes, how do you survive in an industry where, again, internally, you're thinking, fuck man, is today the day? Did I tweet the wrong all the rest of it, right? But you got to go to the ring, and you've got to go, show's on now, I'm here, and you're all fucking lucky to see, like, you've got to turn it on. How do you turn it on? How do you get yourself into a frame of mind where you're now the fucking man walking to the ring?
And this is what's crazy about wrestling. So I've just spoken about imposter syndrome and how that leads you to a point where you think you're not maybe as good as you actually are, and that sort of thing. But then when you go and perform, you are that person. The person who you become, that wrestler who you become in that moment, is that person that everyone thinks they are. Whereas you internally, or once your match is finished or whatever, you're back to normal life, whatever. You don't think you're that person. When you're doing it, you are. You mentioned the bodybuilding side of things and whatever. I know 9 times out of 10 I'll have the best physique on the show that I'm wrestling on. I'll look more like a professional wrestler than anyone else on the show. I look more like a television wrestler than anyone else on the show I'm on. I know that. I know also that how difficult the skilled wrestling is, and that's something that I'm very capable of doing, and to a high level. That I have the presence and charisma of people beyond and above other people that may not have, and I know how much I value that in terms of just value myself as a performer. I know how much it takes to create me, so I know how much that's worth to me, and I can easily, confidently portray that in a wrestling ring. The problem with independent wrestling is you then think, is that too much? The value that I put on myself because of what I put into my craft or whatever, is that too much? Is someone going to be like, well, I don't actually value the fact that you go to the gym 5 days a week and you're very militant and meticulous about the food you eat and all that sort of stuff, and you're very regimented in what you do, and then in how you present yourself and all that sort of stuff. that's obviously a huge value of me and to other people, but it might not be a value to one person. And that one person might be the person who's deciding, if they're going to book you, if they think you're worth your fee, how they're going to book you and portray you on their product. Are you just going to be there to make someone else look good because someone else beating you or having at least a credible showing against you makes that person then look 10 times better than they actually are? It's all, again, it's not a real sport, so it's all things that you can't think of and you can't allow yourself to think of. So that also comes out of your head when you perform, and you just put on the best performance you can for the people who are paying to see it. And then all that thought and doubt comes afterwards again. So, and that's what I mean when I say it comes in waves. Like, I had tremendous imposter syndrome at the beginning of my career because I rose very quickly. I debuted very quickly after starting training. I got big opportunities very early into my career. Like, if I go back through my match log that I have, my Progress show chapter show debut, which for people who don't follow Progress, maybe it may not be aware, is their big show that they have, where back in the day when I started, I was on shows with people like Gunther and Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. and Zach Gibson and like Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, like Mark Head. I can name people, forever, but like really, really high caliber wrestlers all over the world. Some of the best wrestlers in the world, and I've been on shows with them and alongside them as someone having their 17th match on the same shows as these people, and then I'm going to get the imposter syndrome, like, oh, how did I get here, like, kind of thing. And I'm never going to turn these opportunities down, but like, how did I get here? And then 25th show and 25th of booking, and I've signed a WWE contract. My 35th match was in the WWE, and it's like, I know as good as I think I am, or whatever, I know that's not normal, and I know, and this is what lends and kind of feeds the imposter syndrome is, I know other people being like, why is he there over me, kind of thing. And very few people are going to feed into, or I guess kind of alleviate your imposter syndrome and be like, no, you do deserve to be there because you're competing against all your other peers. So very few people will be like, no, you're there on merit, you deserve to be there. They will, not to say they'll tell you shouldn't be there, but they won't feed into the fact that you should be there, if that makes sense. So you have that to, I guess, deal with and contend with, and there's the opinions of fans and stuff like that as well. So and you only, like, you can have 9 out of 10 people give you glowing reviews and one person be like, you're terrible, and you'll just fixate on the person who said you're terrible. And that all feeds into the imposter syndrome that you, as a wrestler, you'll just continue to get. It's weird. You'll just continue to get it. So yeah, it's all just a massive. And something I was going to say anyway, actually, in part of this conversation, the wrestling game is as tough physically as it is mentally. And I saw something someone put out recently, a post, I think he must have been like a wrestling trainer or a coach, or he's giving a seminar or something. I'm not sure who he was, but he's an American wrestler, and he said wrestling isn't for everyone, and people need to understand and hear that. It's something I've always believed, and I've never said out loud because it offends people, but it isn't for everyone. Being a wrestler especially isn't for everyone, because you need to be able to have the to be able to sustain and the physical demand of wrestling. It takes a lot out of you, and if you have to be not a genetic elite, but you have to be an athlete of some sort. you have to have some level of fitness and body control and that sort of thing, which a lot of people don't. But you can't tell people that because they get offended. And then there's a mental side of it that you need to be able to contend with, and people might not be mentally strong enough to do wrestling because it's tough. At any level, it's tough. It gets tougher as you go up and do bigger things because there's more expected of you, and there's other people who are waiting behind you for you to slip up so they can jump in your spot, and who'll be more than willing to do the things that are difficult and that you will find difficult. You know, things like moving away from your family and you know, like risking a career, leaving a career, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just all very, very mentally tough.
Let me, because I have one question that I know we're going to need some time to navigate. So I'm going to fire two really, hopefully, quite simple questions at you, so that we can brush these out of the way.
I do like a waffle. I'm sorry.
And that's why I'm going to, because I love a waffle. Love a waffle. There's nothing better than a tangent on a tangent on a divergent on a tangent. It's brilliant. You end up in a place you never imagined, because at the end you go, wait, what the hell are we talking about? And you just go,
what's the question?
Exactly. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It was a fun talk. What is your wrestling fan idea, notion, opinion that you'll defend to the hilt? What's the one thing that you go, I know all you fuckers are going to disagree with me on this, but... And then you say it, and suddenly, and the pitchforks and the lighters come. Like, what's your, like, listen, guys, I think Gunther is a better name than Walter. Like, I mean, if you want to say that, I disagree with you.
I agree with that. I actually agree with that as well. That's not my take, but I agree with that 100%. So
I'm going to let that go for a second, because you need to answer the question. But what's your wrestling take that you're defending to the hilt? Go. What is it?
So
Tell us.
I've just given one which was slightly controversial, and that wrestling's not for everyone. That's one. Squash matches. I tweet about this all the time. Squash matches, I think, are just brilliant. I love squash matches. There's not enough squash matches. When there's, you know, a wrestler that's being pushed, and they don't have much plans for them in terms of squash, other than anything other squash matches. Like, great, I'm in, I'm hooked. I will wait for that wrestler to be on TV, and I will happily watch the squash match. I love squash matches. Like when Ryback was doing it, and then he became like he's squashing two people at a time, and that sort of thing. I was like, this is great. And then obviously it gets ruined by the time that they get that far over that they have to then do something with him. I'm like, oh no, you're going to ruin him now, because he's not going to do, you know, the stuff that's cool. And same with Braun Strowman and like Jade Cargill, for example, as well. She was doing all that stuff for a while, and I just think Baron Corbin his squash matches were so fun and like captivating, even that like people were counting how long the match lasted. I know why wrestling companies do it. They do it to kind of build someone up whilst protecting them or whatever. But it's just like, I don't care about that. I find it really exciting. Like Goldberg's one of my favorite wrestlers, because he just ran through everyone. And like no one wants to see a 25-minute Goldberg match. Like 5 minutes. His match with Brock Lesnar is one of my favorite matches ever. It's one WrestleMania 33. Just car crash, two massive guys just running through each other, just sprinting to the finish, and it was great. So squash matches rule all kinds of matches. They're just there for me.
I mean, I'll say this in defense of not necessarily. Well, the match is definitely. But look, y'all want to say you disagree with this man? Okay. Look me in the eye and tell me that when the pyro hit and Kane came out and took out all of DX and all of the Radicals in one hit with just uppercuts and chokeslams, you weren't cheering like motherfuckers. Of course we love squash, because it's when they go Super Saiyan. It's when they're like, right, they are the superheroes we wish we could be. When we're in our rooms and we're doing our fucking moves on our fucking Action Men or whatever it was, Of course it was a squash match on our side. We never sold a choke slam or a stunner. We're the ones giving them and taking them. It's that living vicariously through these superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, I think people miss that about wrestling sometimes. Is yes, you want an athletic competition for definite, and you need to be able to carry a show. But like, there's something, I know I fell in love with wrestling because it is kind of a bit pantomime and action hero-y, and it's that these guys are the fucking coolest, man. They can do all this really cool, amazing stuff, and look at how cool they are, and they get to come out to me. It's the vicarious nature of it that you sometimes forget about wrestling. They sometimes lose it through this prism of make it like sport, you know? And it's like, but you have sport. Wrestling's its own thing, dude, and wrestling's brilliant. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got nothing for you. Squash matches, I'm all for them. I'll defend that one to the hilt with you. That's absolutely fine. Gunther, though, really? Better than Walter? I'm going to argue with you on that one.
No, it's right. Okay, names in wrestling are nothing. They don't mean anything. Because you get, after a while, you get used to it, and what they do eclipses what their name is. Ziggler's the most stupid name I've ever heard in my life. Right? It's stupid. It's a stupid name. However, once you got over the fact that he had a stupid name, like, this guy's cool. He's a really good wrestler. Like, you know, people appreciated him for what he's doing. You know, Dolph Ziggler was fantastic. However, his name was stupid. But you forget how stupid his name is because of how good he is as a wrestler and all that sort of stuff. So I can't disagree that Gunther's better than Walter, because Gunther is a better package as a wrestler than Walter was. So
right. I'll defer. I mean, look, you're the professional. I'm not. All I'm saying is Stone Cold better than Baron Von Ruthless or Chili McFreeze. I'm just throwing that out there. You send Stone Cold out there as Chili McFreeze. I don't know if you drink Steve Weiser.
But if Chili McFreeze had the legacy and back catalogue that Stone Cold does, Chili McFreeze might be the guy still. So, you know.
I'd take your point. All right. In that case, the other, hopefully, maybe you need to think about this. I'm not sure. What would you say is your defining match? Like, what's the match when you, like? I mean, look, we all have. You know, I chipped someone in a five-a-side match once, and I'm like, I'm going to dine out on that because the goal was about here, and he went down on both knees before fucking flailing. I'm dining on that anecdote for life. I'm assuming your match is a little bit more spectacular than that. But, like, what would you say is your defining match? Like, what's the match you go, do you know what? That is about as good as it gets.
It's weird because I, as a wrestler, never really been put in a position to steal the show, so to speak. I'm very much, if you put me in match 3, I'm going to give you match 3 because I have respect for the card and what the promoter wants and the other people who are wrestling in various positions. So I very rarely had a chance to give a main event, like, real top match. But the one that, there's been a few actually. I had one against Rampage Brown, everything patterned, the first one, the main event, where we wrestled to a time-limit draw. That one is one that I will just hold up against any match that I've done on any British heavyweight match. I'll say I think it's one of like the best British heavyweight matches that I've certainly seen anyway. Rampage is incredible anyway, but I gave my own as well. And that's one I'm very, very proud of. And like to go half an hour with Rampage Brown, and he beat the shit out of me as well. But I gave it back to him. So and that's how he liked to wrestle. The first time I wrestled him, right in that, he knocked me out. And just before we went out there, he said to me, "Oh, it's one thing." I was like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Bring it." And I was like, "Oh, he's going out there like it's real, and it felt like it was real. So yeah. But that second one against Rampage Brown, definitely that one. I've had some really good matches with Warren Banks in the past, really because we know each other so well. We've wrestled each other, numerous times, and we tagged with each other as well. So we know each other so well. But when we wrestled each other, we both wanted to wrestle a kind of hybrid heavyweight style. So we do the athletic stuff and like hard hitting and the power stuff, but then just show really incredible athleticism as well. We both have that kind of mindset about us, so it's good just to. And I don't typically like wrestling matches of people with two similar styles. I prefer clash of styles rather than same styles. So when you see someone like, I don't know, I can't think of anyone, but you get two high flyers and like, oh, they would be really good against each other, and I'm like, rather see him against a Braun Strowman, to be honest, or him against a Bronson Reed or something like that, because I like the clash of styles. But anyway, that's one of the rare times where I've wrestled someone similar style to me, and it's been really good. So probably those two. As a singles wrestler, I've had quite a few as a tag wrestler, teaming with Alexander Roth, and I feel like we're in a place where we are probably one of the most underrated tag teams in the country. I think we're one of the best tag teams in the country, and it's almost like tagging with Roth is like, when people used to say Thierry Henry must have played football in slow motion. That's what football must have felt, because he's just running through people, scoring ridiculous goals. I feel like when I tag with Roth, that we're doing tag team wrestling in slow motion, because everything just feels so effortless and smooth as a tag team. And we've had a few matches where I thought, yeah, that's some real good shit. Like we had we've had a series of 3 matches against CPF, which I thought were really good. One where we won the Sub Pro tag team titles. We just had really good tag team matches with them. We had a really good one with the Rebellion recently, which hopefully will get shown at Sub Pro again. Hopefully that gets shown soon. I'll just end up reading off matches that I've had with Roth, like tag matches with Roth, because we've had a few with like really decent teams that I've really enjoyed. Like the one in Poland, I'm looking forward to that coming out as well. The one we had with Kings of the North was really good as well. And like, put us with anyone, we'll cook. Like we are that good. I 100% believe it. So
let's talk Turkey some more then, because again, great matches, great career. The question I have for you then is, what in terms of your accomplishments do you look back on and really think, wow? Like, I get that you've said that you try and remember, it can come as easy as it goes. You've had some great matches, but at the same time, there are things about the industry you've had to navigate. But like, what are some of the things that are like bucket list stuff? Like things you look back on and go, that's so fucking crazy I got to do that. That's so fucking cool I got to do that.
I mean, the obvious first one is the UK tournament. I still to this day think how it was a crazy achievement. With no TV training, no WWE training, nothing. We're just going to pluck you off the indies, put you on TV for a special, a live special. So wrestling on TV, live TV. And to be able to be one of the 16 people who were able to do that, at the time I was signed less than 30 matches under my belt. Something that's it's incredible. It's all to this day. When I try and describe how kind of crazy that was, it's difficult to describe. And to be able to do that, like my mum was just in the front row watching, and my dad was watching. He lived at the time in Miami. He was watching live in a WWE network with some of his friends that he works with and stuff. And so, like, to be able to do that, to do that is incredible, and a very small number of people have been able to say they can do that. So that's one. And then where I think I struggled after that is the fact that I wasn't picked up by them, and then I was like kind of thinking, well, what am I, you know, obviously I knew that I was young, fresh in the industry, so I had more experience to get. But then when I got to a point where like, right, I've got loads more experience now, I'm like 10 times the rest I was when they first were interested in me, so why aren't they interested in me now, kind of thing. And then they eventually called me back for NXT UK, and that moment was like a big, like, everything's paid off redemption moment. And at the time, I was talking to William Regal afterwards after NXT UK. They brought me back, and he was like, "You've done everything we've wanted you to do in your time away. Like, you've gone back and you've clearly thought about everything we wanted you to get better at and to consider and that sort of thing. And you've worked on it all and you've done it all." And like his kind of parting words to me is like, "I really hope that, you know, they can offer you something." Nothing came of it in the end, but just the fact that moment was very much like, oh, you know, not I've arrived kind of moment, but it's like everything that the work that I put in, the mental anguish and the physical anguish over that previous year, I think a year and a half or so, maybe even 2 years. No, it was 2 years. 2.5 years actually. 2.5 years was all worth it, and 2.5 years is actually a long time to work away on something with no expectation or no inclination of actually it coming to fruition. So that was a big one. And then there's like things in wrestling that I've done, and I've kind of not taken for granted, but I've not been present enough to enjoy them as much as I would do. So like I mentioned before, going to do extra work with WWE and that sort of stuff. And I made sure when I did the AEW tapings last month, I'm like, right, this might be your last opportunity to do something like this. So just every second you're there, just take it in and just realise you're working at like AEW. You know, it was actually work. I ended up doing a spot with Will Ospreay and MGF, but it's like, you know, while I was out there, I'm this time I'm taking every single second of this in, because this could be the last time I ever do anything like this again. So stuff like that, and you'll notice I'm talking primarily about moments rather than matches and stuff, and that's just how I've always been. But moments within the matches, going out to do my match with Pete Dunne, probably a big one for me, because going out and feeling a live crowd to that extent was just huge. So I've done other cool things as well that probably would be up there, or the things I'd be thinking about if it wasn't for the fact that I've always wanted to work for a WWE or work for a television company, that sort of thing. So, you know, the AEW and WWE things will always be top. But going like Wrestling for Progress at Ali Pali and Wembley Arena, are like two like huge things as well. Again, moments rather than matches. I don't, you know, the matches things, they are what they are. I've had great matches with people, but they don't rank up in terms of moments. The every stuff I'll be able to do, everything patterned as well, while it's on a much lower scale, I guess, than some of the actual wrestling stuff. But doing everything patterned and then having it on being shown by PWI on one of their watch-alongs they did during lockdown, and then I'm not knowing this is happening as well. And I woke up one morning and it was like all these mentions from all these American accounts, because they just watched the show, and I was like, well, this is cool. Like, you know, that's like the show concept was part me in part Wrestling Resurgence, but the fact that it was so well received that it got shown all across the world, and that people really welcomed it and responded to it really favourably, again, something that's like what touched me as a cool moment for my career. So.
10 years though, man, it must be hard to regale specifics, except for when they're the emotional highs, they're the semantic highs. So listen, man, unless like me, like, you know, when you get, you know, to your 30s, it's like, oh yeah, that did happen. You kind of need a little jogging sometimes. You're like, huh, yeah, I did do that. Oh, okay, yeah, well now it's coming back to me. So that makes perfect sense, the fact that it's not like, it's more these smattering of moments. But the fact is, man, like I say, you've listed a few things there that I know, just again, as a bog standard wrestling fan, is just like, wait, what? That's insane, man. That's so cool. So my question is, okay, and maybe this is hard because, again, I know you said there was a period of time where wrestling didn't factor in the same way, but you grew up with it to a certain degree. What are some of the things that 5-year-old you would go, I did what? Like, holy crap! Like again, I like looking at myself through that prism because it helps put your accomplishments in the context of when you started versus what you do now, which is you look at it now and you're like, oh yeah, that was okay. Whereas 5-year-old you would go, that's so fucking cool. I mean, they would. I wouldn't have sworn, obviously, Dad. But anyways, point being that, you know what I mean. Like, what are some of the things that you would go like, actually, 5-year-old me would be pretty fucking impressed with this.
I mean, becoming a wrestler itself is one. If I told 5-year-old me that I'm a wrestler, I mean, my God loves wrestling, and he's in all that his uncle wrestles. So, that's one thing. But the fact, again, and I'll keep going back to it, but it's really, really fucking cool. It's something that I would have, to be able to have told 5-year-old me is that, when you're older, you'll end up wrestling for WWE. You'll end up, sitting in rooms with like Triple H and like you mentioned, we sat down with Michael Cole talking about him asking questions about you, and your life and you as a wrestler and that sort of thing, and be able to do stuff like that. Maybe not so much 5-year-old me because he wasn't really a thing when I was 5, but being like good friends with MVP is like something that let's say 20-year-old me, because that's when he is about. And I used to, MVP was my guy when I was growing up, and just the fact that me and him are like good friends, and whenever he's over in the UK, he always makes sure to come like see me and do something with me whenever he's here, and like stuff like that. There's things that tell my younger self like, oh, this will happen when you're older. I wouldn't believe it. So it's stuff like that's really cool. But again, the things you don't take stock of when they happen, it's just the thing. But yeah.
Like I say, man, I know it's weird to put it in that context, but I think as adults and the longer you go in your career, it's very easy to trivialize things that you would have thought, oh, that's never going to happen. And then it happens, and the context of it maybe makes you go, huh. But in hindsight, you go, actually, that was pretty fucking cool. I mean, like, again, even having conversations like this with gentlemen like yourself, 16-year-old me, 12-year-old me, 10-year-old me, who was dreaming about having his own TV show one day, it's kind of like, wow, that's pretty fucking cool. But anyways, my younger self to one side, I wanted to make sure we had a nice clean bit of time for the last question, because I think it's a hard one to wrestle with, but I would relish the opportunity to wrestle with it with someone such as yourself, because I believe you're going to be an authority on it. I believe you're going to be able to give me some good insight, and it's something that you've made reference to in some of your tweets, which is making wrestling more appealing to... Wrestling isn't for everyone in terms of participation, but you've certainly made no secret of the fact that it should be for everyone in terms of no matter what their creed, colour, ethnic minority, background, anything like that. The first question, though, I wanted to ask isn't whether or not that's a good thing, because of course it is, dipshits. But secondly, why is it still persistent to this day? Why is Brock Lesnar's music to the sound of a black wrestler turning to the Titantron in shock a meme today? Why is that a thing in your mind? Why are we still having to contend with it?
I honestly don't know. And it's weird because we are in a far, far better place than we were, maybe even a decade ago, or even 5 years ago, wrestling-wise. in terms of, you know, the big companies and that sort of thing. And that's just by the by. But wrestling for the big companies and WWE especially, it's just television. It's not even wrestling. It's just television. So it's casting characters for a TV show, but it's like, I don't know. There's nothing I can compare it to really, because wrestling is its own weird little form of entertainment. But it's like having major characters on EastEnders being black or Asian. It's not a big thing because you know they do, but for some reason wrestling seems to be so far behind on these things, and like, you know, decades behind even. Maybe it's because of its beginnings and its background, because it's always been Southern America. It's been, you know, for a better phrase, carny, and it's always wanted to go back to its roots and not want to move with the times, because it gives itself a bit more legitimacy. People do go back to its roots, because obviously people used to think wrestling was real. Now it's this like entertainment, and it's not really fighting. It's not seen as a sport, and people don't give it the respect that it kind of deserves as a form of entertainment, and definitely not as a sport. But the whole of wrestling has to go back to where it was back then, and that includes how maybe women are presented, how people of color are presented, and that sort of thing. Yes, I couldn't argue. I couldn't explain it, because the talent's there, and you mentioned how it's become a meme. You know, Brock Lesnar is just like, if you got a black champion, then Brock Lesnar's going to come and take the champion, and it's, you know, I think he's pretty much gone by. Apart from Big E, actually, I don't think him and Big E ever. I think Big E did he lose it to Lashley, and then Lashley lost it to Brock, I think.
Something like that. But I mean, the fact that it's the one that got me wasn't necessarily. I know Kofi Kingston winning it was a big deal. Bobby Lashley winning, but it was Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné. When they're in that ring and they're having that moment and they're looking at each other and they both realise the significance, and the emotion overwhelms not just them but everyone in attendance. And you go, it's lovely. But it's the mid-2020s, lads.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I don't know if you should be as proud. You're proud that it happened, but someone should be going, right, why the fuck this take so long? And why is it such a big deal now when, look, even if you want to say champions like, you know, but The Rock, right, name one before him.
And there wasn't one.
And I keep coming back to this question of why it persists, because it still does, and it's still a question that has to be faced, where it's not just people of ethnic, not just black people, but then you've got every ethnic minority that tries to come into wrestling, women still trying to be taken seriously, and even though there seems to be unilateral support from the public, culturally it's more mainstream now, so it's easier to get it into the hands of people that can then influence it. It still seems to be a prevalent issue, and yet I can't understand why, through the prism of, like you said, there's no barrier to entry when it comes to talking, in terms of athleticism, in terms of their broad appeal, in terms of everything that you would want to market a person as being. Why is it still a thing? I don't get it. I really don't. And I guess because I feel like you have to ask that question before you can tackle the subject properly. You have to recognize and understand what's holding it back, rather than just getting everyone in a room that agrees with you and agreeing and then nothing changing. Because ultimately I have a daughter. I hate the idea that people are going to look at her and go, you can't be a wrestler one day. Wrestling's not for girls. If she decides she wants to be a wrestler, she can go nuts. But if she decides she wants to be a ballerina or a horse rider, whatever, it's what you want to do. But there's still this expectation placed on people of ethnic minorities to avoid it because they still face exclusion or belittlement. And I guess what I'm asking is, have you faced it? Yes or no? Probably yes. I don't want to speak for you, but like, how have you wrestled with it? And because you've mentioned it, you've said, in fact, I've got a tweet. If someone would pay me for a 5-minute seminar, sure. But it's very simple. Book people of color, book women, book LGBTQ wrestlers, and saying that so many promotions are still failing it, so maybe it isn't that easy. That speaks to a frustration of the fact that it should be that easy. It should be, and it isn't. Why? So I've said a lot there. Walk me through it. Help me understand maybe what I'm missing.
Well, it's really bizarre. I still don't understand why people don't think about it. And if it can't be a deliberate thing. It must just be an intellect thing, because like do people put on wrestling shows to, you know, I can't get my head around it because it doesn't make sense how stupid it is, because it's like, do people not put on wrestling shows to attract people to come and watch? Because if you want to alienate a significant part of the demographic of the country, okay, are you that strong in your belief that you can sell out your venue whilst alienating one, like, you know, social or demographic group? Like, why would you think that? I've said multiple times, I made it very clear that I have no interest in taking my godson, who loves wrestling, to watch a wrestling show that doesn't have wrestlers of color on the show. I have no interest. I will never do it. Like, and the way people think about it is like, I'm the bad guy for saying that, for saying, you know, or I've even been called racist for saying it, like for saying that I won't take my godson. No, I'm not saying I'm going to, you know, go to a show with my godson and then walk out when I see two Caucasian wrestlers. That's not what I mean. What I mean is I want there to be people that represent my godson. So like you said, like with your daughter, that he can think when he's old enough, I can do this. I want to do this. He told me he wants to do it now anyway, because his uncle Roy does it. But it's like, I don't want to take or to mold a young mind into thinking they're not capable of doing something they want to do, because that's what it subconsciously tells people. People don't believe it, but it's true. When I grew up, I gravitated towards the wrestlers of color, and there weren't that many when I grew up. But like, like when I grew up, there was Ahmed Johnson and Ron Simmons, Farouk, and obviously then the Nation became a thing, but they was kind of short-lived, and then it became silly gimmicky stuff. But like, even to the point where like, I really used to like Savio Vega because I thought he was black. But like, it's like, or he had like a similar skin color to me, so I was like, well, that's my guy then. If I wanted to go and dress up in fancy dress as a wrestler, I'd have to go as that guy, because that's the only person who, you know, represents me. It's like when you have like girls growing up in I guess in the era where I grew up in, and if girls were doing fancy dress, the black girl would have to be Mel B, have to be Scary Spice, because that's the only person in that particular field that, you know, is a person of color. So it's like that. It's you want to give these young minds, and you want to mold these young minds into thinking they can do something they want to do, and it's subconsciously tells them they can't. And then it also subconsciously tells older people or older fans of color that they're maybe not welcome, or maybe this isn't for them either. And I've spoken about this in the past when I started just going to watch Brit West shows before I became a wrestler. I felt very out of place. I have friends who love wrestling who don't go to shows because they when they did, they felt out of place and that sort of thing. And it's become a way better space for that now, because you have like quite prominent fans and content creators in the wrestling space who are people of color, and the scene over here is a lot stronger in terms of the people of color wrestlers. Like, I have no problem admitting that my early success was due to being a wrestler of color, in that I mentioned WWE is a TV show. They cast characters, they cast wrestlers. They would not have been able to have favorably done that UK tournament without having wrestlers of color. So I know I got put in that spot because I was probably one of the best in the country, wrestling of colour at that time that wasn't Rampage Brown, basically. So I know that, and I know that's, you know, positive discrimination that's got me into that position. Great, fine. But now the scene's in a way better place where you have not only some of the best wrestlers in the country, some of the best wrestlers in the world, independent wrestlers in the world are people of colour. You've got like Michael Oku, for example. Like you know, I could name so many. You got Michael Oku, you got like Doris, Leon Slater. You know, there's plenty of people that I can name that are on top of the independents, and that wasn't, I guess, a case. Well, you couldn't say that back when I started, basically. And even now, when I'm booking everything patch, I've got such a selection headache now because there's so many like talented people of color. Whereas before, I would struggle to put together a show, put together a 5-match card. Now I'm like, I don't know if I can, you know, afford to put on all the people that I want to because there's so much talent there. So we're in a better place for that over here. I don't know too much about the independent scene in the US to know if they're in a better place, but I know Darius Lockhart runs a really successful show for people of color, and it's completely different from what other people do on the indies. The big companies are getting things better. I won't say they're getting things right, so to speak, because there's still, the jury's still out on that. There's still a long time that a lot of things need to happen for the last, I don't know, 30, 40 of nothing. You know, AEW had their first black world champion in their 5-year history, and he's probably the greatest champion they've had, world champion they've had, and he's done incredible stuff. And hopefully that then opens the door for other people of colour to be great champions in AEW. And they're getting better at it as well. So you know, I can't say that we're in a bad spot, but there's still work to be done because you can't just rush your laurels. It's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym once and then be like, "Yep, I've been to the gym now. Where's this amazing body that I'm meant to have?" It's something you got to keep working on, and then once you've got to that point, you got to keep working to maintain it. So, yeah.
God. Sorry, pressing buttons in the wrong order. Sorry, but yeah, the reason I asked that is because, again, I think it's something that obviously every sport, every industry, every walk of life is still contending with. But it's something, like you say, that's worth contending with, because I've never understood this notion of discrimination from the perspective of someone who's wanting to be successful, because you're precluding people who could be successful for you for a variety of different reasons on something they have no control over. And in wrestling in particular, you look at the history of wrestling, and obviously WWE is the easiest one to point because they're it's the most well known, it's the most well documented. If you look at people of color through the years, their ethnicity is so intrinsically tied to their gimmicks so much of the time, and you just think, yeah, but then look at examples of people that were just booked. Like The Rock, I would argue, is his, part of his run, obviously, with the Nation was, ethnic tied. But when he was just The Rock, and it's just The Rock character, and then you've got someone like Booker T, even, like when they were just allowed to just be extensions of themselves, rather than this is a ethnic minority that we are pushing, you see success. And yet, to this day, it's still something that lingers. It's still something that has to be contended with. And so, like you say, when it becomes to, AEW now having had a champion after 5 years, and like you say, is entertaining as hell. It's starting to, these are dream matches that people weren't even thinking of a year or two ago, and now thinking, oh wow, this guy could really set the scene on fire. Like do you know what I mean? It's heartening to see that that's being embraced. But for you, at least, how has that progress felt, and how does it feel like it's going? I mean, because obviously, look, in the UK, we had a weird summer. I'll just leave it at that. It was disheartening for me to see, but then it was heartening for me. In my town, people came out in droves just to say, fuck them. Do you know what I mean? But for you, in the scene, having put 10 years of your life into it, having been, someone that's, worked to really set themselves apart in terms of their, I would argue anyway, you're a very bombastic individual. Never seen anyone look so goddamn entertaining with a water squirter, just like having fun, being himself. How does it feel like being in that position now? You are someone that a younger person could look at and go, wow, he does that. I want to do that. Like you said, your God's, like, you know, Uncle Roy does it. You know what I mean? How does that feel for you?
I'd never look at it that way, honestly. Don't. It's like, yeah. Obviously, when I was growing up, I had people that I looked up to and whatever. But then, and it was a very different time. You had wrestling pimps and, you know, wrestling voodoo men and wrestling savages and stuff like that, and like dancing wrestling men because of their ethnicity. And, you know,
I mean, when you put it as a wrestling pimp,
and...
I suppose it doesn't. I mean, Godfather just sounds more, yeah. When you say wrestling pimp, though, yeah.
Yeah.
God.
But like, I don't know. It's weird. I never look at myself in that way, and I have, like, I wrestled someone recently. I was shouting at Tyler Walker. And he's new to the scene, and before I wrestled him, he came up to me at a show before I wrestled him, before I knew who he was. Introduced himself and he was like, "Oh, it's like really great. I got to meet you. Like, you've been like a big influence on me wanting to wrestle." I'm like, "What?" When people say stuff like that to me, I don't believe them. I just all the time I'm like, "Okay, what are you after? I don't understand this." And then I wrestled him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, getting to wrestle you is like a big deal. I've seen you in like other UK, South Africa, UK, whatever, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Appreciate that, but I'm just a wrestler. I don't, you know, there's no need to put me up on this pedestal or whatever. If you know the work I've done has led you to want to do it, that's great. But honestly, I'm just a guy. Like, you know, I'm just a guy who wrestles, and like, I see it now." And this is something I wanted to touch upon. I don't actually feel like I need to run everything pattern shows anymore, because there are a lot of shows that are doing the right stuff in terms of how diverse their shows are. And that's not just the wrestlers they book, but the people who come to attend. I'll give Hustle, for example. Hustle, they do, I don't know if you're aware of their shows, but they do shows in London at the Colour Factory. Hackney Wick, I think other venues as well. I went to go watch one a few months back because it was hosted by the wrestling guys who are black British content creators, and I honestly believe if it wasn't for their involvement in these shows, the crowd wouldn't be anywhere near as diverse, and the presentation of the Hustle brand wouldn't be anywhere what it is. And that then brings into the wrestlers they book and that sort of thing. It's very urban, very new feel to it. It feels like almost like a new era of British wrestling shows, but they're so far ahead of what everyone else is doing in terms of how they're presented. So we're getting there, but it's like I don't feel like I need to do like on my shows anymore, my annual show or whatever, because there's people like Hustle who run monthly, and they draw like good crowds, and there's people there that you don't see at wrestling shows normally. So, you know, it's like, you know, brown faces, black faces, men, women who I've never seen at a wrestling show, but they're all like really having a good time and enjoying it, and they're up for everything, and they think that move as simple as like a drop kick get like a big reaction and that sort of thing. And that's, for me, that's what I want. But I now feel I don't need to do the work to provide that, because other people have now filled that space and they're doing it. So, and that's blended in into people who go to watch wrestling. Sorry, who go to attend wrestling training, who want to become a wrestler. I mentioned the wrestling guys. Two of them started wrestling training, and they posted a clip recently of them training. It's really encouraging to see. Obviously, not only that they're doing it because they love wrestling like how I did. It reminds me a lot of when I started. But then there's like, you know, people of color, other people of color in the same wrestling training session. There's like you know, there's a large number of people of color training alongside them. And when I started, it was just really me. In my school, I can't really speak for other schools, but from where I trained, it was just really me, and like, or maybe one other, you know, every so often. But the fact that there's so many people now encouraged to do it, that makes me feel good, and that makes me feel like the message I've been trying to put out for the last 5 years is being heard and listened to. But then you see wrestling posters that all got all white faces on them, and you think, well, there's still work to be done. So I know I kind of sidestepped around your question a bit, because I don't feel like that people look at me in that way in terms of wanting to wrestle because they see me do it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But I've never felt that myself. The influence I would rather have on wrestling is for people to feel encouraged that they can come watch and encouraged they can come try it out, because it's something that, not that they believe that everyone can do, but everyone should be able to, should have the opportunity to try it and see if it's for them. But like the barrier to becoming a wrestler shouldn't be their race. It should be their physical ability, their understanding of wrestling. The thing that stops someone from saying, you know what, maybe doing this wrestling thing is not for me, shouldn't be their skin color. It should be, it hurts too much, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not tough enough, or whatever. That should be the barrier, not race.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but the last two questions I have are significantly less profound than that one. And it's going to be a bit of a hard left turn, because this question I don't know the answer to for once. I feel like I always have a gist of an answer before I ask it. I genuinely don't know the answer to this. What in the devil is a Wavy Beach Club rules match? What the devil is going on there? So for those of you who don't know, there is a poster I'm currently looking at. I will put the link in the description below, where live at Bedford Town FC Eagles Bar on the 27th of September, there is going to be, or at least advertised, Wavy Beach Club rules. And there is a picture of you flexing. Now, what the devil is going to happen there, or what the devil is the premise of that? Please elaborate.
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I pitched the match idea, because, and this again was part of me creating. Well, it's not even creating, because it's literally me when the volume turns up. But the Ibiza's favorite wrestler is literally, I had all these ideas of things that I attribute to the character in terms of me creating the character in a wrestling context and having like, okay, your elevator pitch, what is your character all about? One of the things I created was Wavy Beach Club, which is essentially, if I was a television wrestler, that would be my Piper's Pit, my my KO show, whatever, my Peep show, all that sort of stuff. That Wavy Beach Club would be that, and the idea I had for that is it's literally just me in a beach club surroundings. There's a bouncer who lets people in to the segment and keeps people out of the segment, like a beach club. There's a attire that's appreciated, there's attire that's not appreciated for the beach club. There's pounding house music going on throughout the segment, to the point where it's almost, you can't hear what's going on in the segment, but that's what's going on. And essentially, above all, I'm having a really good time. The beach club might not be for everyone, but I'm having a good time, and for me, that's all that matters. So I've got, I'm dressed in the appropriate attire for the beach club. I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. I'm enjoying myself. They're playing music that I enjoy, and that's what matters. If other people are having fun or not, whatever, I'm there. I'm having fun. So that's my premise for this match. But I don't know what that means in terms of a wrestling match. I've not quite figured it out yet. I don't know if it will ever figure it out, and if it will ever work out how I plan it to. But wrestling never does, to be honest. And it might just be the one time that we do this and that's it. But I can't answer you what it's going to be. All I know is I'm going to have fun. So yeah, it's something that I've wanted to do as part of the Ibiza's favorite wrestler kind of character gimmick, so to speak. in a wrestling context. So we'll see what it looks like.
What he's saying is anything can happen, so you better get your tickets available online now for £10 or groups of 4 for £30, and tickets may be available on the door, but you don't know that, so get your tickets right now. Link in the description below. So, final question, and I guess this hopefully leads a little into that. So, you mentioned on another tweet recently, you've been thinking about offering training seminars to help people with standing out, having a gimmick, social media presence and tag team wrestling, and you won't kill them with burpees. I don't believe you. But the question I have is, I mean, obviously, the thing I think most people struggle with, even in my sphere and in any entertainment sphere, is having an identity. One thing that drives me fucking nuts at the moment is the two guys talking on a podcast gimmick. It's been done, lads. Enough. Like, you need to have something that you're offering the audience that I think transcends what you are. You're trying to ultimately achieve a goal. You're trying to ultimately do something. Even if it's similar to what other people are doing, you're doing it in a different, whatever it is, right? But that's just my theory. I try to do things differently with a variety of things. But in your mind, at least, what is the most critical element, without teaching it, without giving away the seminar? Like, what is the thing about standing out that people maybe miss, or that they don't commit enough to, or that they make mistakes in doing? Like, in your mind, at least, what's that element that you would want to hammer home to people?
Quite simply, is if you want to stand out in wrestling, do something that's not wrestling, that people can relate to, that isn't wrestling. That's the one thing I've always thought about, and I've always it's how I look at things anyway. Like, I don't gravitate to your black trunks, your black trunks and no tan, the wrestler who's ardent, serious wrestler. Okay, cool, that's fine. There are people who are doing that as a character very, very well, and you can't replicate or replace them. So it's it's someone else does that, I'm like, whatever. And on the flip side, there's wrestlers who I've never seen wrestle, but I'm like, your presence and presentation and your look and your character is so cool that I will just book it. And if you didn't know how to wrestle, fine, I'd book you again, but I'd maybe book you in a way that you're not exposed as a wrestler. Because like they'll that person will stand out on a poster. I'll name one person, Rain Leverkusen. I think I've seen her wrestle once, because she was on the show I was on. But I'm like, you have such a cool look. Like, you're like the 80s rock, like punk rock chick, like he's wrestling in 2024, and you just look so cool. I don't know what moves you do and that sort of thing, but you've got like this like standout charisma and presence about you. Not even a presence in terms of like, you're a big person or whatever. It's just like you'd walk down the street and someone would look at you and be like, oh, she's got a cool look because she looks like she's an 80s like rock star kind of thing. As I mentioned, I've only seen her wrestle once. Couldn't tell you what her finishing move was. Well, what I remember was like, she's good. She's got it. She's got something. Like, I don't remember the match or anything at all, but I just remember like, she's good. She's got something. If I was booking a wrestling show and I had a blank check, whatever, I'd be like, well, you're on, right? Because you've got something there. I'd even go to say it's about Alexander Ross, even though I hate bigging him up because he's got a massive head. But like, he has this like charisma to him where it's like, he walks into a room, people look at him and they're like, oh, this guy's cool. Like, kids look at him like, oh, this guy's cool, I want to be like this kid. And he's so like good and relatable when it comes to kids as well. So so good with them. They're like, oh, he's cool. And then like, because he does a lot of family shows and stuff, it's like he wins the kids over, and even like the parents think, oh well, he's cool because he's grabbed everyone in this room's attention, but then he's also been so good with the kids that like this guy's, he's clearly the top guy in this promotion because he's cool. Like, and he's another person where like you walk down the street and you're like, oh, this guy's got like swag for days. Like he's got that charisma, he's got that swagger. Like, you know, he's the kind of guy who wears sunglasses indoors and people don't think, oh, you're a prick. He's like, yeah, it works for him. Like, you know, but it's never and that's the kind of stuff I look at in terms of standing out. Me, I know I stood out because of and well, I got opportunities early on because I had a creative gimmick that stood out from the rest of the country. I was doing stuff that was entertaining, and the wrestling probably wasn't there, but it was sufficient. Yeah, I was competent at wrestling. The character and the gimmick stuff was way above and beyond what everyone else was doing at the time. And I had, and this is I'm tooting my own horn, which I don't really do actually. So you're lucky, but I had charisma that was way above my years in wrestling. So that was what made me stand out, and what made me stand out in terms of like getting noticed by WWE is WWE. They know they can turn anyone into a wrestler. They know they can pick someone up off the street. Obviously, they prefer to do it now in terms of like athletes or whatever because they make the best wrestlers. But that's a testament to the fact that like they can pick someone up who may have not made it as basketball player or NFL player, and like, we're going to turn you into a wrestler now because they're already athletic and can do incredible things as an athlete. They just teach them how to wrestle, and they can do it. But it's having that other bit about you, that like things that can't be taught, where like you can't really teach people charisma. They either have what they don't, or they can maybe pretend they have it, but they don't. But you know, that's one of the intangible things that for me, makes people stand out. So I mentioned like Ray and Opie. I mentioned Brock. Like they stand out when I see them on a show. I'm trying to think of other people, but I'm at the moment I can't think of anyone. But however, like having something like that where it's like your eyes are drawn to that person because of something other than wrestling. I couldn't care what most people wrestle like, to be honest. Like, and when I think in these ways, I think of the way of like my dad, who's the most casual, lapsed wrestling fan ever. He got me into wrestling, and then he kind of would dip in and out of it. And like, if I was watching wrestling with him, he probably wouldn't be that interested in, I don't know, Bryan Danielson, for example. However, he would have been more interested in Daniel Bryan because of, you know, the yes chant and all that sort of stuff. And that's not to say obviously Daniel Bryan is incredible, but it's just like the people who I tend to gravitate to in terms of wrestling and gimmicks and characters are things that catch my eye. Like, you know, and I'm talking about two iterations of the same person who's both an incredible wrestler, but that's the person who my dad would gravitate to because he's a casual person. You know, the larger than life characters, the people who walk into like a coffee shop and you're like, what does this person do? Like for a job, rather than the person that kind of blends into the background and, you know, have something about you that's in terms of standing out. It's very difficult to explain, but I can go into. I mean, if I was to do a seminar, I've done them in the past, but I can go into a seminar and be like, look at that person. I like you know, how they carry themselves, how they walk, how they talk, how they look. And I can just picture if they turned up certain things up, you know, make themselves a bit louder as a personality. I'm like, that would be really cool as a wrestler. I don't really care as much for in-ring and stuff. It's like on like a base level, it's great, but what else have we got? And I know that's what made me stand out above other people, because I had things above and beyond my wrestling that was an attractive proposition, let's say, to people to come and watch. And I'd love to be able to talk to people about that in wrestling schools and that sort of thing, so people aren't coming out cookie cutter wrestlers and people who you see on a post and you're like, I have no idea what this person's about. But as I mentioned, Rain Leverkusen, I see her on the post, I'm like, well, that's a cool 80s rock chick. Like, you know, that's what I think stands out and what people should think about in terms of standing out.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me is Ian Skinner. God damn,
Ian Skinner, yes.
I want to.
Yes, you know what Ian Skinner's about.
But
yeah, you see him 5 seconds
I
at Ian
can't.
Skinner, you get what he's about. And it's like,
Everything about him
you're
is
an
geared
annoying
to
little
being
shit.
annoying, and it's
Yeah,
so
and you
annoying
can
how
relate
good
to
he
it
is at
because,
it.
oh no, he's like that all the time. He's like that all the time. It's not a gimmick. You If you share a locker room with Ian Skinner, you're like, oh, you fuck off. Like, he has a very good skill of getting under people's skin.
I,
Yeah.
we are not giving that prick any airtime that he is not. Nah, no. So look, I can't keep you forever because I could ask you literally a million questions forever and ever about getting over, managing it. But that's for your seminar when you run them. So the biggest question that's left to ask, and unfortunately it is part of the podcasting gimmick. Where can people find you? Where can people follow you? And most importantly, what matches, events, what promotions are you wrestling for? Are you appearing for that coming up that you really want people to know about? That you really want people to make sure that when they're done watching this, that they don't just click next or go onto TikTok for 4.5 hours. You go to the goddamn website and you buy yourself some goddamn tickets. What do you want to let them know about?
So first thing, I am available on Twitter or X, as it's called, the Big Wavy _. That's my same handle for Instagram as well. So if you want to find me on there, to be honest, I don't tweet as much as I used to. My Twitter activity goes as far as retweeting things I'm on, and then if the odd thought that I want to share with the world comes out, I might tweet it. But I rarely tweet anymore, to be honest. So Instagram, I usually use to show people what I've done recently, match footage that I've edited into a music video or photos of shows, that sort of thing. I don't sell as much merch or offer as much merch as I used to. I just can't be bothered. And now that I'm married, it's very difficult conversation in terms of storing all these t-shirts that that I don't know from week to week if I'm going to sell them or not. So I try to not have too much merch in the flat. But yeah, I do have merch available still. It's royjohnson.bigcartel.com. Anything else in terms of where to see me? Places that I wrestle quite regularly. Future Pro Wrestling, I am the heavyweight champion. The 8-7 are the tag team champions, and Alexander Roth is the 0G champion. So we have all the gold in FPW, so that's where you want to see me. And the 8-7, that's where we are. I've got the Wet Cake Pro Wavy Beach Club match. I don't know when it's coming out, but that match is on Friday, the 27th of September. Tickets are available for that still. Other places you may see me, so I tend to wrestle really as local to London as I can because I don't like being out of my flat away from my sofa for too long. But EWE, Elite Wrestling Entertainment, based in Balham, you can see me there. I'm also there this weekend, actually, as it goes, on the 29th of September. Everything planned on the 11th of October is the big one, the big important one, Purpose Wrestling. Please come and support, come and watch that. There's no announcements yet on card and the roster, but there will be soon, and we're going to have a really good show. So that's a big one. And then, really, I'm very bad at remembering my diary, but those are the places that I am going to be at regularly and that are accessible to people. My tickets are available, and I'm sure there'll be more stuff to announce and to come. I did initially at the beginning of the year plan to stop wrestling this year, but everything's going so well and I'm having so much fun that why would I stop? So I'm going to be around for a bit and doing the shows and the bookings that I want to, and that are creatively, more than anything, creatively fulfilling for me. So yeah.